Let's begin here. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has been sentenced to unconditional discharge for his conviction last year on 34 charges of business fraud. These related to hush money payments to Stormy Daniels during the 2016 presidential campaign. Mitch McCann, SABC News Correspondent, joins us live now for more. Mitch, thank you so much for your time. The judge saying that the court has never seen such a, and I quote, unique and remarkable set of circumstances. What does the unconditional discharge mean?
That's right. Good evening to you in South Africa. Good morning from New York. Donald Trump, as you say, just now sentenced to an unconditional discharge. What does that mean? Well, exactly as it sounds. He has been discharged with no conditions attached to his sentence after those 34 felony counts where he was found guilty last May. Now, in the sentencing this morning, we heard from the prosecutor, Joshua Steinglass. We heard from Donald Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche. We heard from Mr. Trump himself and, of course, Judge Juan Merchan. At the start of the proceedings this morning, we heard from Josh Steinglass, the prosecutor, who said that it was made clear during the trial that Donald Trump has a disdain for the rule of law. He went on to say that the probation report the prosecutors received before today stated that Donald Trump shows no remorse for his crimes and sees himself above the law, essentially taking no responsibility. We then heard from Donald Trump, who wasn't in court himself today. He was coming in via video stream from Florida with his lawyer, Todd Blanche. Mr. Blanche saying the case was passed over many times by the Manhattan prosecutors and was only resurrected again after Donald Trump announced he was running for president in 2022, essentially saying that this case only happened because of political interference. Then we heard from Donald Trump. Mr. Trump said this morning this has been a very terrible experience. I think it's been a tremendous setback for New York and its court system, he said. And then finally, we heard from Judge Juan Merchan. He talked about what he called a paradox in this case. He said it was very unique outside of the court, given the fact it was Donald Trump on trial, but inside the courtroom it ran smoothly like any other case. And when he set that unconditional discharge this morning, he said Donald Trump, the ordinary citizen, Donald Trump, the criminal defendant, would not be protected by the protections of the presidency. It's only the office that shields him from the seriousness of the jury's verdict, essentially saying it would have been impractical to impose any other sentence. So Donald Trump, in 10 days from now, will become the 47th president of the United States, having to switch focus from a courtroom where he is convicted to running the free world. An extraordinary change of pace in just 10 days from now.
And Mitch, one would then ask, when it comes to, of course, it's an unconditional discharge, one would then be confused to say what happens to his conviction. He now enters the office as a convicted felon. What processes unfold then, or is it just going to be business as usual?
Well, that's right. It's an important question because it's critical here. Donald Trump still has that conviction. He is still a convicted felon. He tried to contest that earlier this year. The Supreme Court, after a Supreme Court ruling that said presidents can't be prosecuted for acts taken while in office. But Judge Juan Merchan said, well, this has got nothing to do with that, essentially, so the conviction still stands. Now, there is actually an appeals process here. Donald Trump is undergoing that appeals process now, and that could take months, it could take years, but he is still working hard to overturn that conviction. Important to remember, he made history here, becoming the first former or current US president to record a felony conviction, and he'll head into office in a week and a half still as a convicted felon.
I see some people behind you and some flags there. Are those his supporters? Have they said anything?
Yeah, that's right. They are mostly Donald Trump supporters, and I've been covering these cases surrounding Donald Trump for the last couple of years. And some of the people we see here are the same people we see in Florida, Washington, Georgia, where his other cases have taken place. Some have followed him around the country. I have to say there are many or far fewer people here than there have been in previous cases, perhaps because it is about 0 degrees centigrade here at the moment. It's very cold, but nonetheless, we've seen fewer people turn up to each one of these court appearances. Perhaps some of these people also feel vindicated as well after Donald Trump won the election in November.
And I suppose the big question now, everybody's looking ahead to the inauguration, because even, every person that has been talking about the U.S. elections now is looking forward to that particular day. Let's speak about the security arrangements, everything that is now being put in place to ensure that he is inaugurated?
Well, that's right. I think it's fair to say that Washington is going to turn into Fort Knox. It will be a significant lockdown. There will be many police. There will be undercover police as well on the Washington Mall. We can expect tens of thousands of people to turn up here, given the numbers we've seen in the past. So it's going to be a major security event. Also keeping in mind that Donald Trump was the target of an assassination attempt earlier this year. So they'll be making sure that he is very much protected in Washington. The other thing we're going to be looking at is how soon Donald Trump makes some of these significant changes that he promised on the campaign trail. Things like immigration. How soon is he going to close the US border if he chooses to do so? How soon will he want to deport people that have moved here illegally? And how soon will he implement tariffs on places like China and Canada, like he is saying that he is going to do? So there is a lot to watch out for. It is only 10 days away now, and Donald Trump will become, again, the President of the United States.
Interesting times ahead, Mitch. Thank you so much for that update. Appreciate it, and stay warm. That is Mitch McCann, the SABC News Correspondent.